So an interesting thing about Hollywood is that what takes place there can oftentimes be a precursor to what is going to take place on a large scale throughout our country. And you could take some of the circumstances and things that you have seen in Hollywood and what the Hollywood elites do, and you could deem that as prophetic to what is going to happen to our country in the future. What would be commonly accepted as normal now might not be considered normal in the future. And oftentimes that transition starts with Hollywood. They would be the first ones to embrace unnatural ways of living and unnatural lifestyles. Now, the most recent example of this would be at the Met Gala, which just took place. And I usually don't keep up with the parties and the get-togethers that all the Hollywood people have, but me and my wife just happened to be flipping through, and we were looking at the different celebrities that were there and all the different costumes and the dresses, and we were kind of rating them and all these different things. And we came across one specific picture, and I'm going to post it up on the screen here. This picture in particular is one that caught my eye. And it's a very weird picture, right? This is an actress who has cosmetically altered her face to look like a cat, because I guess the gala was cat themed. And it's kind of somewhere in the realm of the uncanny valley, right? Is this real? Is this not real? Is it a cat? Is it a human? It has some characteristics of a cat and also some characteristics of a human. So why is this a big deal? What does this represent? Well, really what this represents is the idea of transhumanism, in that we are so dissatisfied with ourselves that we're going to want to transition and transform ourselves away from being human altogether. And you can kind of see the groundwork for this being laid with the transgender movement, right? It started out as men can become women and women can become men, and gender is fluid and sex is interchangeable at any time. And then from there, it went from that to becoming transracial, where a white person will go in and have racial affirming surgery and they come out looking like somebody who is Asian, right? And on top of that, you have people who are otherwise healthy identify as somebody who is disabled. So this is the next evolution in the process. The groundwork for this has already been laid. This is something that you would see in a dystopian future, right? This is something that you would see in a movie about a dystopian future. If you've ever watched The Hunger Games or read The Hunger Games, there are characters like this within that world. I'll give you an example. Here's a picture of an actress from the Met Gala 2023, and this is a picture of a character from The Hunger Games. Hey, isn't that a bit weird? Isn't that a little bit odd and a little bit scary? And you might say, well, what's the big deal? Why does this matter? Why is this a bad thing? Well, it kind of runs in the same vein as to why transgenderism is a bad thing. And that is, not only does it cause confusion amongst the individuals that partake in it, but it's also very confusing to those observing, particularly young children, which are going through delicate stages of development themselves. And on top of that, there is something very sad and very disturbing about somebody who is so disgusted with themselves that they are willing to mutilate themselves beyond recognition. And that's really what it boils down to. It's about mutilating yourself. It's about mutilating your identity. It's about mutilating who you are in the eyes of God. It's not going to even be about being man or woman or being abled or disabled. It's going to be, we're going to throw away the concept of being human altogether. We're going to look at ourselves. This is what the future holds for us, because again, the pieces are all there. It's right around the corner. We're going to become so frustrated and so disgusted with who we are as human beings, right? Human beings are ugly, human beings are weak, and we're going to transition away from that. We're going to transform ourselves away from that, and it will grip our country the same way this transgender confusion has gripped our country. And I just think it's around the corner, right? I think this is something This is the next step in the philosophy of transgenderism. This is the next step in the evolution to all of this confusion, where we are just going to simply do away with the concept of being human altogether. And I just think people need to be ready. People need to be prepared. I think there's no reason for us to believe that this is off the table, right? What would be considered off the table or extreme 20 years ago is now mainstream. And 20 years from now, this might be mainstream. So I just think everybody needs to be aware. I think people need to be ready. I think people should be prepared to combat this, because overall, it's going to be a dangerous thing, much like transgenderism is a dangerous thing. So just keep a lookout. I believe this is right around the corner.